This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good. So we're picking up in Yichud HaMaseh, chapter 5, 525 in the translated book by, it's not Art Scroll, is that? I think it's Feldheim book, and 5592 in Sefaria. And he's going to go into now a question marks or confusion that the Yetzer Hara will like to plant when it comes to Bechira and Yediyah, which is one of the paradoxes that Rambam Maimonides speaks about. Bechira is our free will. Yediyah is God's knowledge of what was, is, and will be. Right? And the question that's always asked is, well, if God knows exactly what will be, so then I don't really have free will. I'm just following a script. And yet the Torah, the whole Torah is clearly based on the premise of free will. God can't tell us thou shalt and thou shalt not. If I'm programmed, I'm like a robot who has to do whatever I'm doing. And it doesn't make any sense for there to be any repercussions of my actions, right? You can't force me to do something and then hold me responsible for doing it, right? What's it called when you, is that entrapment? What's that called? Is that called entrapment? Your Honor, help me. I think it's called entrapment, right? When people are set up, right? Whenever they have a sting operation. So you have to be careful that it's not that you convinced him to do it and therefore he did it and therefore you want to convict him for doing it, right? So how do we understand this Bechira Yediyah? Soon he'll go into how the Yetzer Hara will use this against us. But in terms of the question and the challenge and the paradox, so Rambam, according to the simple reading, doesn't give an answer. What he actually says is that our knowledge is not God's knowledge, and our choice is not, our knowledge is not God's knowledge. Our thoughts are not God's thoughts, right? In other words, that when we say God knows, so we borrow that term and use that term like any anthropomorphism. We use that term in a way that we understand. The same when we say God's arm, it means God's power, right? But we use arm because that's what we can appreciate. And God's eyes means God's vision, God's awareness, excuse me. And we have that through our vision. So I think Twersky says that the Rambam is actually giving an answer, and that knowledge is a borrowed term. And by us, knowledge precludes a person having real free will. But by God's knowledge does not preclude his having free will. How do we understand that? There are different, that's not so simple. The Ravid, who's one of the classic commentators on the Rambam, actually takes the Rambam to task and says, why are you asking a question if you're not going to give an answer? Why are you planting doubts in people's minds? Better not to ask the question if you're not going to give an answer. I once heard from one of my rabbis that in defense of the Rambam wanted, right? If Rambam wouldn't have asked the question, then along would come Ciner in the year, a teenage Ciner in the year whatever that would be in the 1980s, right? And say, I've got the question to completely knock down Judaism. Wow, right? How could it be if God knows? Then how could we have free will? So the whole thing doesn't make sense. And I had a good excuse then to walk away from Judaism. So therefore, the Rambam wrote the question, didn't give the answer, to let the Ciners of the world know that even if you have this question, don't think that upends Judaism. I also had the question, and I'm still the Rambam, one of the greatest rabbis and teachers of Torah of all time. Actually, the Rambam, at the Rambam's kever, the Rambam's burial site, which is in Tiberias in Israel, So it says, Mi Moshe ad Moshe lo haya kamoshe. From Moses to Moses, from Moshe, as in Moshe Rabbeinu, as in Moses of the Torah, to Moshe, to the Rambam, whose name was Moshe, lo haya kamoshe. There was no one like Moshe. So the Rambam is letting people know that I had the question, and I'm still the Rambam. So don't think that overturns Judaism in any way. And before we get to the Chosavavos, just the approach that speaks most to me in terms of this conundrum is that the problem in asking the question, right? The best answer to a question is showing how the question was not really a valid question, that there was something mistaken in the question. And maybe that's what the Rambam means when he says my knowledge is not your knowledge, right? If I knew the future of what you are going to do, right, so that would seem to lock you into that to a certain degree. But the way Rav Dessler explains it, the beautiful example is we are locked into this realm of time. And we can't breach the barriers of time. Yeah, we could watch videos and see what happened in the past. But in terms of the future, we can't. There is like this cloak of time that obscures our vision. And he compares it, let's say you have a long, long table covered with a tablecloth. And the very, very start of the table, all the way on the left is your birth. And that long table is basically your life. And the very, very end of the table is 120 years at the end of your life. And there's a tablecloth on that table with a little hole in it. And that hole starts right where you were born. And that tablecloth slowly, slowly moves about 60 seconds, a minute, right? And that slowly moves across your life. And therefore, what's visible to us is whatever is uncovered, and that's our present. And we remember what happened, and the future, whatever the future is, who knows? Right? Now, the future will be made up of our decisions, but who knows what those will be? But God is not obscured by this tablecloth. He's able to, so to speak, look under the tablecloth, and he sees everything that we have decided. Right? For example, let's say I would tell you that I went into a time machine and I saw this. I was here at this class. And I know exactly that Robin is going to be wearing a white shirt with some, is that green, Robin? Yeah, my notes say green. Yeah, or black plants, flowers on it, right? And it says here that Carol will be wearing a white blouse, and Kathy is going to have a beige with some nice floral, and Estee's camera is going to be off, so I won't know, right? And Leonard's going to be sitting here wearing a white cap. Now, everyone had full bechira, full choice to decide which garments am I going to wear at this time, right? I simply zoomed ahead and saw what each of you decided to do. So that in no way, the fact that I zoomed ahead in no way took away from your free will. You had 100% free will. And therefore, the fact that God has the knowledge of our future decisions, well, it's not truly a future decision, right? Because by God, Hayahova V'yiyah, he was, he is, and will be, does not mean that he was and is and will be. What it means is that he always presently is, was, is, and will be, because he's not bound by the realm of time. However, the Chosavavos will now go through how the Yetzer Hara will, our evil inclination, our confusing thoughts, will use this confusion in one of two ways, either way, to try to deter us from our service to Hashem. Ve'imlo yagia, so 5592. Im lo yagia chitza b'mash zacharnu. If his arrows won't be effective. Is that right, Kathy? Wrong one, not 5592?
It is
Oh.
5592, but
Oh, no, okay. I'm sorry. No. You are right. You are right. Yes. The kasher yitya esh. I actually looked in the wrong place myself when I was getting ready. Yeah. The kasher yitya esh hayetzer. Okay. So actually, that's an introduction to the next piece that we'll see. Maybe we'll get to later today. If not, put that on hold. But it's a good piece. It's good knowledge to have. The kasher yitya esh hayetzer mipatotcha me'apanim eila sher zacharnu. Thank you for catching me, Kathy. So when the Yetzer will give up from trying to seduce you with the earlier ideas he'll bring in, Mishadel b'zeh mitzad ha'ga'ava v'ha'gaon u'miyat ha'anava. Okay, so first he tried to get you to be so humble and not want to get any honor or any praise, that you shouldn't do anything good in front of other people, right? And now he's saying the other extreme, right? Mitzad hagava. Hagava is haughtiness, fullness of oneself. Vigaon, umiyat anava, and a minimum of humility. V'yomar kvar higata. Wow, you're amazing. You've already reached el hamalot hagdalot, these high levels. Shigir aleina chasidim v'tzadikim. That the earlier tzadikim, the most righteous, the most chasidim, bemunat levavcha, with the faith of your heart, uv'maasecha hashleimim, and your actions that are so complete, perfect in serving Hashem. But yachid b'dorcha, you are the man, you are the woman, you are a yachid, you are a true standout in your generation. Ve'echad ba'anshe zmanecha, right, amongst those who are living in our world today, you are something special. And therefore, you've got to show your medal over here. You've got to show who you are. You've got to reject them. You've got to minimize them. And that way they'll learn, who you are, and how much more they have to do. V'tizkor ra'otayim, you should point out their faults. V'tifarsem, and publicize ro'a levavam, their evil intents. V'tachlimam, and to embarrass them. V'tochicham al zeh, and to rebuke them. Ad sheyichlamu, let them, right, you are a standout. And if it comes from you, they will just wilt, they will just wither under your criticism, and they will get themselves in line. Ad sheyichlamu, they'll become humiliated. V'yashuvu el Elokim, and then they will really connect to Hashem. That will bring them back. V'yitchartu, they'll have regret on mashikadilhem, on their previous ways. V'neheg b'zeh minhag haneviyim, and I'll show you this is the right way to go. Look at the prophets. Look at the Nevi'im. Like it says like it says by Yecheskel the prophet, Ata ben Adam, Hagei Beit Yisroel. You, son of man, Yecheskel, Ezekiel, you tell the house of Israel, Et Abayit, show them what this Beit HaMikdash is supposed to look like, right? Yecheskel had the prophecy, had the vision of the third temple. V'yichlamu me'avonotayim. Let them be humiliated, so embarrassed of their sins, and they'll turn things around. So that's what you've got to become. You've got to become the rebuker in chief over here. You got to be the one who points out all their faults and gets them in line. Follow the ways of the Nevi'im, of the great prophets, because you yourself are great. So why shouldn't you follow in the ways of the other greats of other generations? You're a great of this generation. Follow the greats of the earlier generations. Ve'im tashiv alav bazeh. Right, good way to become popular, right? Right, and we know, certainly in our generation, right, that giving a rebuke, right, when it's done in such a manner, is bound to make people either dig in stronger Or go back. Actually, the Gemara, in the Gemara's time, they already speak about it. That if someone, the Gemara says in their generation, we're going back 2,000 years. Imagine our generation. If you say to someone, "Hey, I think there's a little chip on your shoulder, a little splint on your shoulder," they'll say, "I think there's a 2x4 coming out of your head." Right? In other words, anytime you try to point out something amiss, they're going to turn back on you and say, "Oh yeah, but you," and then they're going to cut loose. The Gemara tells a story of a certain rabbi that a neighbor came to him to complain about one of the other neighbors, that he had a tree that was impeding the progress of the public domain. So he said to him, "Come back to me tomorrow morning, and I'll take care, and I'll speak to him." Right? That night, oh, I'm started. But Kathy, I'm in the wrong place?
You were supposed to start on 92. I think you started on 97 because it took me a while to figure out where you were.
Oh my gosh.
And I just asked Kathy where you were because I was lost.
Yeah, and then Robin asked me, and I told her back, but somehow it showed up.
Give me 1 second. I apologize for the confusion.
No, because they start the same way.
Pausing. Let me go to Safari.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was doing it privately.
No. Thank you, guys.
I thought I answered you privately.
I thought you did too, actually. How did he know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I put Kathy on here and you answered under it, so I don't know.
You know,
something popped up on my what's it called, guys.
Oh. Oops.
Sorry. See, because 92 and 97 start.
Well, they all start the same way.
They do.
So I went back to 92. It was supposed to be 97?
No, you were supposed to start at 92, but I believe you started at 97 because you started to read and I went, the first two words were identical, but the third word was different. And I'm like, where the heck is he? So I started trying to figure out where you were. And then I finally found it by the time you hit 99.
Oh, he's on 99. Okay.
So I started at 92? No, I should have started at 92.
You were supposed to start at 92, but you started at 97.
But you can keep going. It's okay.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. I like listening. I just wondered where we were to read on, but it's okay.
Yeah, because the Hebrew wasn't lining up. And then I was looking in the English when you were translating. I'm like, this is not lining up. He's got to be somewhere else.
Okay. Membet. Okay. So I'm sorry. So let's go back to there because that really was where I was supposed to be. Okay, good. So let's go back to 92 and then let's go back. I'm sorry. I think it's where you are, 525. And there he does speak about the free will and otherwise. Okay. Okay, yes. Yes, okay. My apologies. And we are going to go with the first introduction that I gave about free will and the problem is I'm not a doctor. Nevertheless, I cannot read my own handwriting. And membet, I read like memhe. Okay, good. So again, he will shoot arrows in terms of this the determinism conundrum. Our free will, God's knowledge. Let's hear. When he will give up hope from this that we mentioned, he'll throw you into the sea of doubts when it comes to hechrech v'hatzedek. When it comes to this concept of hechrech, of that which I have to do, and the tzedek, and my deciding what it is that I want to do. Kashayirotcha mitalein b'matzah avoda. If he sees that you are going off and getting involved in improper behaviors, Yishtadel v'aretzcha. He'll try to clarify to you this idea of ahechrech. Hey, God knew what you were going to do. God knew what you were going to do, and God runs the world. So if he knew what you were going to do and he allowed you to do it, guess what? It's all good. It's all good. It's all fine. That's what God wanted to be done. So he'll bring strong proofs min hakatuv, from that which is written, min hakabbalah. Let's hear kidei laharchiv hamatlaot alecha, in order to give you explanations, in order to justify what you've done. Don't be so worked up about it. Everything's fine. The Yom Elcha is saying to you, if God really wanted you to serve him and to stand strong and to not do that, whatever it is that you did, then he would have guided you. He would have almost forced you to do that. And bring you to doing that. Goes there. Nothing happens unless God decrees. God runs the world. He decrees. He decrees. What does he decree? Whatever he wants to decree. And therefore, if it happened, he decreed. He wants you to do that. What, you think you could stand up against God's decrees? And you think you could go against what he rules? If he wanted this to happen, it's going to happen. So don't beat yourself up. Let it go. It's fine. It's fine. It was God's will, right? What, you think God expects you to go against that which he has laid out, the events he has laid out, what should happen? You don't do anything unless it was part of God's plan, unless it was decreed. The one who's in charge of everything that happens is biyad habore, is in the hand of the Creator, Yitaleh. As the pasuk says in Yeshayahu, Anochi Hashem, Oseh Kol. I'm God, I do it all. So therefore, if you did it, it was part of God's plan. So don't feel bad, right? Just to quote Nike, just do it. Whatever it is you want to do, just do. If you succeed in doing it, what does it mean? That was God's plan. That was God's plan, meaning it's God's will. So who are you to think that you, with your decision making and with your willpower, you're going to go against God's will? Forget about it. It's a joke. And therefore, just flow. Just go with the flow. And if he sees you getting very involved in this world and your dealings and your parnasah and your sustenance, Yom Alecha, he'll say to you, bring it on. That's what you got to do. He's a hair mina atzla, right? Don't be lazy. Va'rifyon, don't be half-hearted. Put all of your efforts, all of your thoughts, all of your time, all of your resources into your earning your keep in this world, into this worldly dealings. V'al tismoch al zulatecha, don't rely on anyone else. Ki atov v'hara, anything good or anything bad that will come your way, b'yecholatcha, that is your decision. You have the ability, you have the strength, you are the one who determines everything, right? It's all up to you. So when it comes to doing Averis, he'll say, it's all up to God. What? Don't get yourself all worked up. When it comes to earning your keep and getting involved in this world, you've got, right, if you're not going to do it, who's going to do it for you? You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to put all of your efforts into it. HaMaseh, whatever you're going to do, any benefit you're going to get, it's all in your hands. Hishtadel b'kochacha, put all of your strength into that. V'tarach, and busy yourself, toil, b'chol yecholatcha, with all of your efforts. And then tagia el mashetitaveh mitanugei olam hazeh. Then and only then will you get the pleasures, the wants of this world that you are seeking. V'hizaher misibat hapigaim hara'im b'chol kochacha, and with all of your strength, be very careful from any of these causes that could affect that. Timalei mehem, flee from them, escape from them. Like the Chacham says, like Shlomo, King Solomon says in Mishlei and Proverbs, Tzinim v'pachim b'derech ikesh, traps, pitfalls are in the way of the crooked. Shomer nafsho, someone who decides to guard his own self, someone's going to take care of himself. Yirachek mehem, he will distance himself from them. You've got to make sure. V'amar, it says, Ivelet Adam, the foolishness of a person, to salef darko, will cause their path to become crooked. The El Hashem yizaf libo. And then what happens? And then they'll get angry at God. God, why are you doing this to me? But it's not God doing it to you. You did it to yourself. So you see from there, actually, the Gemara explains that this pasuk refers to the brothers of Joseph, right? When Yosef is giving them all the trouble that he's giving them before he reveals his identity, right? They say, why is Hashem causing us all of these problems, right? Well, it wasn't Hashem who causing the problems. They're the ones who sold Yosef down to Egypt, down to Mitzrayim, and now is giving them all of this whole situation. So they're blaming God, but they created themselves. That's what the pasuk is saying. Ivelet Adam, the foolishness of a person that contorts their path, but against Hashem, Yiza'ef libo. Then the person gets angry at God. Ba'amar, and it says, the Navi Malachi, Miyetchem haita zot lachem. Whatever comes to you, it is mi yadchem, from your own hands, right? You have brought this onto yourself. Therefore, the Chav Zavava says, "V'hu mahapecha ta'anot." See, he uses opposite arguments depending on the situation in order to confound you, in order to diminish your service to Hashem. Pam behechrechu b'gezeira. Sometimes he'll say it's all decreed. When it comes, you've done something wrong. It's all decreed. You were forced into it. It's God's decree. God runs the world. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just go with the flow. Upam b'tzedek b'chira. And other times when it comes to, you don't have time to go to the minyan. You don't have time to daven. You don't have time to do this chesed, this act of kindness. You've got to work on your career. You've got to work on this. You've got to work on that. Then it's all dependent on your work. Nothing to do with what God's going to decree. Kafi Mashiach, he'll choose the approach going all the way with decree or all the way with free will. Lefatotcha ulerafot yadecha. Either way, he'll use that, whatever the situation calls for, to try to weaken our resolve and weaken our determination in avodas Hashem and serving Hashem. In tikatz v'titein el libcha mash amra v'seinu. But we've got to wake up, realize, and take to heart that which our sages taught us. Zechron Levracha, of blessed memory, the Gemara in Bracha says, Hakol bidei shamayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven, chutz miyirat shamayim, except for the fear of heaven. Actually, this week's parsha, Ma Hashem Elokecha shoel mimach. What is it that God, Hashem, your God, is asking of you? Ki im liyiraoto, just to fear Him. Meaning, the only thing that we can truly control, is our yirat shamayim, is our awe of heaven, is our relationship with Hashem. Everything else that goes on, we don't truly control that. When it comes to our parnasah, so we have to make our effort, but we're taught that Rosh Hashanah is when it's decreed over the course of the year how things will unfold. The Chavetz Chaim compares it to a person who wants to get more wine out of his barrel. So he therefore, instead of just having one berez, one faucet put into the barrel, he puts in two faucets. So he's getting twice as much wine. Yeah, but the barrel holds whatever the barrel holds. So you might take it out a little bit faster, but the barrel holds what the barrel holds. And that is, so besides the Yirat, so when it comes to our Yirat Shamayim, that is in our hands. When it comes to our using our self-control or our not to do certain things, or our resolve and our commitment to do certain things, that is fully in our hands. V'tishtadel b'nyanei haTorah, hishtadlut. And therefore, when it comes to matters of Judaism, matters of Torah, matters of spirituality, there a person needs to make hishtadlut, mishin barlo, keep ma'asav yelo gmul va'onesh. Based on our actions, the consequences will come, the positive or the rehabilitative negative consequences. That's all based upon our actions. And as we explained before, even though God knows what we will decide, God in no way forces us to make any of our decisions. But being beyond time, able to peek under that tablecloth in the example that we gave, so he knows exactly not what we will decide, what we have decided, right? For us, it's what we will decide. But it is, right, that's only when we are bound by this cloak of time. So all of that is up to us to do, and that is what makes us. We are nothing but the sum of all of the decisions that we make throughout our life. Like in Eov, we learn, Job, Ki pal adam yishalim lo, u'ka'orech ish yamtzienu. Ki pal adam, the acts of a person, yishalim lo, those are paid to the person. One's own acts are the payments. U'ka'orach ish, and the path that a person chooses, yamtzienu, that is what that person will find. We make the calls, right? A beautiful Nefesh HaChaim, when it says in Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers, da malamala mimcha, which is taken simply to mean know that which is above you. He explains, da, no, ma lamala, what is above, what awaits a person in the spiritual realm, mimcha, it's from you. Whatever you've created, that is what is there for you. So therefore, when it comes to those matters, put in all your effort. That's where we really can and do make a difference, and that is where we are fully responsible. We need to take that responsibility. But when it comes to matters of the world, then we should act minag mishin barelo, right? Someone who knows, it's clear to him, ki kesher kol tenuotav, the tapuchot inyanav bigzeirat habore, that all of my movements, all of that which will result, it is all bigzeirat habore. That's all from the gzeira, the decree of the Creator Yitaleh, right? We all know some people who, regardless of their innate talent, some people who are so talented and work so hard and just can't pull it together. And other people who are, let's say, less talented, and it's amazing. It's amazing how well they are doing, right? And financially, right? This one, without coming on to winning the lottery, right? But you see that it's not, we need to make our efforts. We need to make our hishtadlut. We need to make our efforts, but ultimately, that is coming from Hashem. V'hu boteach alav b'kulam, and put to trust on Hashem, umashlich yavo al Hashem, and to cast our burden onto Hashem, as it says, hashlech al Hashem yahavcha, throw onto Hashem your yahav, your burden, v'hu yichal kalecha, and He will sustain you. Right? Again, we need to make our efforts, we need to make our hishtadlus, but ultimately, it's coming when it comes to the material. When it comes to that, ultimately, it is coming to us from Hashem, and we need to do our effort, but to recognize where it's coming from. And the Chavetz Chaim writes very, very many places that that when it comes to the finances, a person needs to be very careful to give their tzedakah, to give their maaser, to give their maaser is me'eser, from 10, to tithe, as it's translated, right? To give their tzedakah. And he explains that that is, the Gemara in Kesuvos says, melech mammon, the melach, the salt, meaning the preservative for mammon, for your wealth. And the Gemara has two different texts. One text says chesed. It's the chesed, it's the kindness that you do with it. That will help preserve that which you have. And the other text, instead of chet samech dalid, it's chet samech resh, chaser, right? If you're missing some, take some of yours and give it to others. That will be the way that you will maintain yours. So certainly, right? We can affect the productivity and the success and the maintaining of that which we have. But ultimately, when it comes to all of that financial and material, ultimately all of that is bidei shemayim, in the hands of Hashem. And when it comes to our avoda, that is fully in our hands, and that is what we have to take responsibility for. The kasher yityaesh, and when he, and this is what got confusing, because he starts all of these paragraphs with the same words. The kasher yityaesh, and when he will give up hope, mipatotcha, from seducing you, from misleading you in the ways that we mentioned, he has another approach, and he'll say to you, Amnam, mashta chafetz l'malei me'avodas habore v'yichuda lishmo tuchal al zeh la'achas man ba'atid. Right? Why? All the things you want to do, you'll do. You'll get to it. What's the rush? What's the rush? There are things to do before that. Let it do it bisman atid. Right? It says in Pirkei Avos, right? A person should not say kishe'efne eshne. Kishe'efne, when I have free time, that's when I'll start to study. Shema lo tifne. Maybe you'll never find that time, right? Maybe you'll never find that time. So when we push it off, there's always something else that comes in the way. I'm talking to a fundraiser. So, certain people, you approach them in a certain years. Oh, these are my years now. I've got to support the kids. I got to take care of this, right? And then, right, later point, the kids are out. Yeah, I got to pray for my retirement, right? And then I'm on a fixed income, right? A person's always pushing it off until it never actually happens. Even if you have one day left in your life, and you do properly in that one day, you do a teshuva shalema, complete teshuva on that day, kvar zechita etzlecho. You hit the jackpot. You're ready. You're going to merit ligmol ulahat salam eonesh. You're going to have the most wonderful world to come afterwards. And you know how it works with tshuva. God is just waiting. God can't wait for us to do it. And he embraces. As long as you do it wholeheartedly, he's going to accept it. So therefore, what's the rush? And your response to that needs to be, say to him, oh, I should wait until one day before my death, right? We're not exactly these milk containers that have an expiry date stamped on our forehead. Well, we actually are. We just can't read the writing, right? We just don't know what it says. Right? How do I know when that day is? I'm like that servant, She'amin b'malcho, who was very trustworthy, that the king trusted him. He was confident, the king will never replace me from my position over here. So he decides to go after, to not be so devoted to the work of the king. and not work so hard. And instead he's putting all his effort towards different pleasures. Until what he needs to do for the king becomes this heavy burden. And then suddenly he's called before the king. And he's got to, it's like Doge, he has to give an accounting of all the things that he's done in the past week, the past month, the past year, whatever it is. He had no answers. He had no justification. The king's not going to be all that happy with him. And he went out impoverished. He did not accomplish all the time that was given to him. He did not accomplish. Right? King Solomon again says in I'm not sure if it's Mishlei or Koheles, I'm not sure where, right? At all times your garments need to be white. Okay? And the mashal that he's giving over there is that the people know the king's going to throw a party, right? So some people said, all right, I'll get into my royal garment, I'll get into nice garments. When the king says it's time, then I'll be able to show up dressed appropriately. Others said, I'll have time. And then sometimes it's a sudden call, right? No one knows. I was talking to someone over Shabbos, a guest of mine, tell me about, I'll say a young man. I'm not so young myself, but a few years younger than I, right? But this happened a good 10, 12 years ago. Went to sleep on Rosh Hashanah night, and that was it, right? There was no clear medical issues going in. No one knows, right? That's why you say, I'm not going to do it now, then when? So therefore, my father used to always say to me, when he asked me to take out the garbage, I'd say, I'll do it later. He'd say, later is never. Do it now. When it comes to things that are important, right? And we had Rabbi Tolinsky, Rabbi Tulushkin, who wrote a book on the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he said that one of the four principles of the book that he spoke about when he spoke at the JCC was, we have a saying, if you're going to do it right. And he said, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, if you're going to do it now. Do it now. Right? How many times a day do we think, I should text, I should call, I should do this, and then we get all caught up, and then it doesn't happen, and then we're saying, right? And then already it's not the same if I do it the next day, or that person ends up calling, right? Whatever it might be. We all have over the course of the day so many things that this eights of the Yetzer Hara telling us to wait till next time is never a good practice. Okay, good. Sorry about the little moving around. We're going to go pick up next. I think tomorrow, next week, we'll pick up where we were supposed to have been, where I started, misstarted. Tell me where we are, Kathy.
I'm lost now, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure where we are.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to get it now, in that way. There. No. Now we're up to 90. Now we're up to 97.
Okay.
Okay, and keep me honest next time. Okay, if I start to veer off, all right, call me out on that. Okay. Okay. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Okay.